what if I just didn't talk the entire episode? I can't do that, then there wouldn't be a podcast. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of I'm Reviewing Here, a podcast where I, Matthew Bussey, watch and review Sight and Sound's top greatest movies of all time. This is going to be... This episode's going to be a lot. I just need to warn you. I mean, my episodes are always a lot because I am loud and obnoxious, and, you know, that's my shtick. But yeah, this one is going to be a lot, and I'm going to do the best I can to be, what's the word? Comprehensible? Yeah, that's the right word, because I'm doing 2 episodes in a row, which I always do, but this is a lot, because this film and the film I just reviewed are 2 of, like, my favorite movies. The last one is my new favorite movie, and this one is one of my top favorite movies ever. I have loved this movie since I was a kid. I have loved this movie so much, forever, but when I was a kid, I loved it because, I don't know if you remember episode 1, if you're a long-time listener, and if you're not, it's totally fine. The first 50 episodes of this podcast are crap. Do not listen to them. I honestly urge you not to. But in the very first episode, I was just playing around, and, you know, it was mainly just that. I didn't really have, like, a plan in play. But I remember episode 1, I talked about what first got me into movies, and my answer was animal attacks. Yeah, I know it's morbid, but when I was a kid, I was really obsessed with, those like Discovery Channel shows and episodes where survivors of animal attacks would talk about what happened when the animal attacked them, and then they would have these cool reenactments, and then I was really into that. And then I saw Jaws when I was 5, and I was like, cool, shark, destruction, cool. So I liked that. And then I saw today's movie, and it made me 25,000 million trillion times more obsessed with movies where nature attacks. I guess that's the more PC way to say it. But yes, the movie I am talking about today is one of the most famous animal attack movies of all time. It's one of the most famous horror movies of all time. It's one of Alfred Hitchcock's most famous movies of all time. It is The Birds, or, as I used to say it when I was a kid because I had a speech impediment, couldn't pronounce my R's, The Birds.
How do you do? My name is Alfred Hitchcock, and I would like to tell you about my forthcoming lecture. It is about the birds and their age-long relationship with man. It will be seen in theaters like this across the country. In my lecture, I hope to make you all aware of our good friends, the birds. Theirs is a noble history, and through it all, man has played a conspicuous part. This cave drawing is one of man's earliest sketches of his feathered friend. One can see at once the loving care with which the artist depicted his subject. The story of man and his friends, the birds, is filled with many fine examples of ways in which these noble creatures have added to the beauty of the world. Take this plumed hat from the period of Charles I. How proud the birds must have been to have their feathers plucked out to brighten man's drab life. Here we have a later model, a refinement of the first. Here man, or rather woman, thought enough of the birds to have an entire one as a decoration. It's quite dead, of course. Naturally, the egg plays a very prominent part in my lecture. Not a word about which came first, however. I don't believe in dealing with controversial matters. Thousands of years ago, man was satisfied merely to steal an egg from a nest and use it for food. Now he has perfected this process by imprisoning each hen in a separate cage and by scientifically manipulating the lights so that she doesn't fall into the rut of the old 24-hour day. Thus, he can induce the bird to reach fantastic heights of egg production. Originally, there were many varieties of birds on Earth. Some have become extinct. The great auk, the passenger pigeon, and the famous dodo bird have all disappeared. Actually, they didn't exactly disappear. They were simply killed off. But of course, this is nature's way. Man merely hurries the process along whenever he can be of help. Man and birds have been responsible for a great many advances in our civilization. For example, the bird was the inspiration for the invention of gunpowder, and it was his speed that brought about the development of the shotgun. But man has not been unmindful of his debt to the bird. We have honored our feathered friends in many ways. We cage birds and show them off proudly in most of our zoos. And the turkey is traditionally our guest of honor at Thanksgiving. I suspect you never realized that if it weren't for birds, even some of our pastimes would suffer noticeably. Duck hunting, for example. Granted, bagging a fellow hunter can be diverting, but the supply is rather limited. I hope you don't mind if I have something to eat, but I'm rushed today. Planning the lecture has been most educational for me. I've begun to feel very close to the birds and have developed a real sympathy for our little... What was I saying? Oh yes, I've come to feel very close to the birds and have come to realize how they feel when... I don't think I'll eat just now. Hardly proper with all of you here. Surely the birds appreciate all we've done for them. Don't you? Beautiful cage, fresh water, no other birds to bother you, none of that blinding sunlight. Oh! Now why would he do that? Most peculiar. What on earth?
They're coming!
Oh, that was pretty good. Yeah, there's a lot of that in The Birds, because this is a movie about the birds. So, I wasn't going to play that full trailer because I know it's a little long, but two things. You can skip it if you don't want to listen to it. And also, it's just such a great trailer because it's so, I mean, it's like, it's so weird. I don't know how else to say it. It's so against any kind of trailer that you would expect to see about birds that attack people. I just loved how like kind of witty and sardonic it is, you know, with Hitchcock just talking about it. Yeah, it's great. And then the sound effects at the end. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, the birds. Oh my God. The birds. I think I love the movie, of course, because it's just a lot of fun. I love when nature attacks movies, you know, that whole genre in itself. I love that. So that's just the fun thing about The Birds. But at the same time, it really is different from Hitchcock's other films in a lot of ways. Because Hitchcock, you know, the master of suspense, his movies, though, they always, you know, they were suspenseful, and The Birds is very suspenseful, of course. But, you know, his other movies, they had a lot of mystery to them. They had a lot of mystique, and they had a lot of traditional, you know, murder plots, and I think like that's the big thing, you know, the plots in his films were originally very, very kind of engaging and big and sprawling and had a lot of characters and a lot of intrigue and murder, and The Birds isn't really like that. The Birds, upon a lot of viewings, is one of, if not the most abstract film that Hitchcock ever made. It is. I mean, I don't know if I should get into it yet until I talk about the movie, but that is why I love it so much. And that is also why some people don't love it so much. Some people think that The Birds is a little overrated. They think, what's the point of it? I don't get it, you know? why are the birds attacking? Why did I just watch this movie? Is it meant to be like a campy film? It is campy. I mean, look, the movie's a little dated. I get it. You can obviously tell when the birds are mechanical and special effects and when they're not. But it's a little campy because it's a movie about birds killing people, pecking people's eyes out and stuff. But it does have a deeper meaning. Yeah. The ideological analysis of this movie is delightfully distraught and engaging and anthropomorphic. Just kidding. Ideological analysis, that is a big thing, and that is actually something that we went over this movie my senior year of college in 2013, excuse me. My one class, we watched this movie, and okay, I'll get into it. I may forget about that, but let's first, before I get ahead of myself, let's just talk about the plot.
Plot synopsis.
Birds attack people, the end? No. No, there is a story to this film. I didn't mean to make it sound like there wasn't. At a San Francisco pet store, socialite Melanie Daniels meets lawyer Mitch Brenner, who wants to buy lovebirds for his sister Kathy's 11th birthday. Melanie Daniels is played by the iconic Tippi Hedren. I had such a crush on Tippi Hedren when I was a kid. She is so beautiful. She is the mother of Melanie Griffith and the grandmother of Dakota Johnson, if for those of you who don't know. So good in this film. There is a lot of kind of sad history. I don't mean to be a downer with her and Hitchcock and this movie, but I'll get to that in a second. And Mitch Brenner is played by Rod Taylor. Rod Taylor was an Australian actor who I only remember from this movie, but he was in a lot of other movies. He even had a role in Inglourious Bastards. He played wait, am I reading this right? He played a fictionalized version of Winston Churchill? I didn't know that. I don't know. I haven't really, that part in the movie, it's that part, I think he's in it with Mike Myers. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a little overrated. That scene in the movie, I mean. Anyway, recognizing Melanie from her court appearance regarding a practical joke gone awry, Mitch pretends to mistake her for a shop employee. Aw. Chemistry, love, lust. Mitch tests Melanie's knowledge of birds, which she fails. He discloses his prior knowledge of her and leaves without buying anything. Smitten, Melanie buys the lovebirds and drives to Bodega Bay after learning Mitch has gone to his family's farm for the weekend. Melanie is directed to a teacher at Bodega, Annie Hayworth, to learn Kathy's name. Annie is played by this actress named Suzanne Pleshette, who I don't know, but she was pretty popular on the Bob Newhart show, and Bob Newhart was the actor who played Papa Elf in Elf. That's all I know him from. And Kathy, I'll just quickly say, she's in this movie more. She is played by Veronica Cartwright. Veronica Cartwright was in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, that show on Netflix, which I embarrassingly watched just because I like magic, but I say embarrassingly because, come on, when they started breaking out into song and dance, so unnecessary. It got so Riverdale-y. I hated it. But anyway, yeah, she's in that, and she's also famous for Alien, when the little alien comes out of John Hurt, that's the actor's name, his stomach, and the blood goes on that woman's face. That's her. Yeah, she goes, ah! That's her. And she's just a little girl in this film, and she's so cute. Melanie, no, oh my God, I'm getting ahead of myself. Melanie, so she meets Annie to learn about Kathy's name. Annie is Mitch's ex-lover, but their relationship ended due to his overbearing mother, Lydia, who dislikes any woman in Mitch's life. Lydia, the sad mother, is played by Jessica Tandy. Jessica Tandy was one of the, I think she is to this day, still the oldest Best Actress winner. She won Best Actress for Driving Miss Daisy. That's the song in Driving Miss Daisy. I haven't seen that in ages. Didn't really love it. Melanie rents a boat and crosses the bay to discreetly leave the lovebirds at the Brenner farm. Mitch spots Melanie as she leaves and drives to meet her at the dock. As Melanie approaches the wharf, a gull attacks her. Mitch tends to her head wound inside a diner. Lydia arrives and meets Melanie, whom Mitch invites to dinner. At the farm, Lydia's hens are refusing to eat. Lydia dislikes Melanie due to her exaggerated reputation as reported in gossip columns. Mitch invites Melanie, who is staying with Annie, to Kathy's birthday party being held the next day. Later, there's a thud at Annie's front door. A dead gull is found at the threshold. Foreshadowing? I think so. Yeah, so basically, just remember, Lydia is very cranky and doesn't like anybody that her son dates, and, I don't like Lydia in this movie. Lydia kind of annoys the crap out of me in this movie, but Not the actress, the character. At Kathy's party, Melanie tells Mitch about her troubled past and her mother running off with another man when she was Kathy's age. During a game, the children are attacked by gulls. Later that evening, as Melanie Also, the children attacking scene, it is a little funny, but it's serious, I'm sorry. Later that evening, as Melanie dines with the Brenners, sparrows swarm the house through the chimney. Oh, this scene was so cool. Mitch insists she delay driving back to San Francisco and stay the night. The next morning, Lydia visits her neighbor to discuss why their chickens will not eat. She discusses his eyeless corpse, pecked by birds, and flees in horror. This scene terrified me as a child, and it's barely talked about whenever people talk about the birds. Oh, the shot is so creepy and bloody. It's a bloody movie. It came out in 1963, and it's in color. While recovering at home, Lydia fears for Kathy's safety, and Melanie offers to pick her up at school. As Melanie waits outside the schoolhouse, a flock of crows, engulfs the jungle gym behind her. So good. Anticipating an attack, she warns Annie. Rather than leaving the students safely in the building, they evacuate them and the crows attack. Iconic scene. Mitch finds Melanie at the diner. When gulls attack a gas station attendant, Mitch and other men assist him outside. The spilled gasoline is ignited by an unaware bystander's cigar fumes, causing an explosion. During the escalating fire, Melanie and others rush out, but more gulls attack, and Melanie takes refuge in a telephone booth. Thinking of something funny. Mitch saves her, and they return to the diner. My dog right now is on the couch, and she's sleeping on her back, staring at me because she wants to go out. And we're going to go out soon, don't worry. A distraught woman blames Melanie for the attacks, claiming they began with her arrival. This is funny because she's like, I think you're evil! Mrs. Bundy, an ornithologist who scoffed at the reports of birds attacking together, different species attacking together as well, sits in stunned silence. Mitch and Melanie go to Annie's house to fetch Kathy. They find Annie's body outside. She was killed by the crows while protecting Kathy. They take a traumatized Kathy home. That night, that's an intense scene. That night, Melanie and the Brenners barricade themselves in the family home, which is attacked by birds that nearly breach the boarded up doors and windows. It's like Night of the Freaking Living Dead, this scene. It's so good. During a lull, I never use that word. Melanie investigates a fluttering sound in the attic bedroom. After discovering that the birds have pecked their way in through a roof, Melanie is attacked, trapping her until Mitch pulls her out. Oh, it's so intense. Mitch insists they all drive to San Francisco to take Melanie, now injured, traumatized, and catatonic, to a hospital. As Mitch readies Melanie's car for their escape, a sea of birds has gathered around the Brenner house. So cool. Mitch quietly moves the car out. The car radio reports bird attacks on nearby communities such as Santa Rosa, and the military may intervene. Kathy retrieves her lovebirds. This part made me laugh. The only birds who do not attack, yeah, it's true, from the house, and joins Mitch and Lydia as they escort Melanie past a mass of birds and into the car. The car slowly drives away as the birds watch and yell, "Rah!" The end. first of all, I said that this movie's a little dated, and yes, there are a few shots that are a little laughable, but at the same time, this movie still, like, unnerves me in a weird way. And it's because the thought of being attacked by a bird just pecking at you with its beak and causing cuts on your face, and like, and then you got to worry about getting infected with the bird flu now. I mean, it's scary. It is scary. And you may laugh when I say that, but I am being serious. The thought of getting attacked by a bird is scary. The thought of getting attacked by a flock of birds is even more terrifying. And I think what is so unique about the birds is the fact that you never know why the birds attack everybody in this town. Why does it only happen when Melanie comes to town? You never know. Why are different birds attacking Melanie and everybody? You never know. Why? What happened? So there's a lot to interpret in this movie. And when you first see the movie, you don't really get this. When you first see the movie, you're just in it for the entertainment value of it, And this was based on a book. I'm going to get into this a little bit more, but it was based on a short story by Daphne du Maurier, who's most famous for writing The Birds, yes, and Rebecca. Rebecca was another famous Hitchcock movie that he did. But yeah, so this is based on something, it has that to it. But what I love about it is how Hitchcock really does, he adds his own genius to it. He adds his own meaning to the film. And the meaning of this film, it's kind of been discussed, and I don't know if I'm honestly interpreting it right, but I feel like this is a movie that is very, very anti-feminist. This is not an original thought. I lied. I actually was taught this in my film class I was telling you about in the beginning of this episode. But why is it an anti-feminist movie? Well, let's look at it. Melanie, the character Melanie, played by Tippi Hedren, she is a very attractive, very independent, feisty, badass woman. She doesn't need a man to complete her. She doesn't need to be married to a husband or anything like that. She really is her own self. She has an incredible sense of self-worth. All the women in this town don't fit that category. When she first shows up, she is so, like, everybody looks at her like she's an alien. They are so gobsmacked by, oh my God, who is this woman? What is she wearing? Look at her. It is that. That reaction is very, very obvious, blatantly obvious in this film. It's not just obvious with Lydia, the mother, but, Annie herself is just depressed in this film. And the mom is depressed. All the women in this town are so unhappy, But nature is kind of stable, until Melanie arrives. When Melanie arrives, everything goes to shit. And that is kind of, it might sound like a huge leap of, are you serious? That doesn't make any sense, but what I'm about to say, but I think what Hitchcock is really trying to say, and this is insane, but I feel like what he's trying to say is, this is what happens when independent women come into the picture. Nature will revolt. Nature will attack you. I mean, I don't think it's that crazy. I think it's very obvious. Why do you think the birds attack the second Melanie arrives? Because she's Melanie. She's a woman. She is not just a woman. She is a woman way ahead of her time. I think that's crazy, and I think that it is very believable. And it's not like a happy thing. It's not, not at all. But Hitchcock has a lot to say here. I don't really like what he's saying, of course, no, but is The Birds an anti-feminist movie? I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yes, I do believe it's an anti-feminist movie. Yeah. I'm right and you're wrong. BTS Secrets and Scandals. Oy vey, there's a lot here, but it is all really good. Well, it's all good, but some of it is a little icky. Hitchcock and Tippi Hedren, I don't know, some of you may know this already, but Hitchcock was a total dickhead to Tippi Hedren. Hitchcock was obsessed with Tippi. Hitchcock was married too, by the way. And he had this really weird obsession with Tippi Hedren when she was hired. I've heard differing reports from Tippi Hedren and from other, publications. And there was an HBO movie made all about this, the relationship. It was called The Girl. It starred Sienna Miller as Tippi Hedren and what's his name? Toby Jones played Hitchcock. Tippi Hedren alleges that Hitchcock sexually harassed her, was just really creepy and obsessed with her. He wouldn't let her out of contract, so she had to turn down movie roles. She was traumatized by making this movie, but, she said, though, that she doesn't regret making it because it made her, the one and only Tippi Hedren. But yeah, Hitchcock was not a nice person, and it is sad, but at the same time, it's like, well, he's also, if my theory is correct, he made a movie that is all against women. So, but also I say that, but maybe he didn't actually believe that women shouldn't have rights. But I don't think there's any denying, though, that yeah, he was a little bit of a problematic guy. I don't think any other women have come forward and alleged that Hitchcock was, creepy towards them. But who knows? It's sad. I know it is sad. Hitchcock. To this day, I mean, his legacy, I don't think his legacy has been tarnished. I think there have been so many allegations against everybody since the history of cinema began, ever since, Me Too and everything, that I think at this point, everyone is kind of saying, you know what, everybody was an asshole back then. It's sad, but it's the truth. Let's just move on with it. Kind of sad, but true. The movie, on a technical level, is amazing. So the movie was filmed with a mix of real birds and mechanical birds. Some of it was CGI. A lot of the scenes, or not a lot of the scenes, what am I talking about? The scene with the children running away from the school, that was actually in a studio, and the children were running on treadmills. And then these fake birds, mechanical birds, would swoop in and, get close to their face and everything. Intense. There's no score to this movie. Throughout, no music whatsoever, and it adds so much more to the eeriness of it all. I love it. This whole movie and the story, well, let me first start with this. Originally, yes, like I said, it's based on a short story by Daphne du Maurier. In the original short story, there is a protagonist named Nat Hawken who realizes that he's the sole survivor of bird attacks in Cornwall, and that he is unlikely to survive the next attack. His reaction is to smoke his last cigarette and calmly wait for his inevitable death. That's the plot of the book. Obviously, Hitchcock really expanded it, and there was another real event that inspired this. This is insane. On August 18th, 1961, there was a massive bird attack that happened on the seaside town of Capitola, California. Seabirds were diving through windows into homes and cars, and it was crazy. That was the note that I jotted down. What was the cause of this? Toxic algae. Yeah, there was like some weird infection that the birds were in the crabs that the birds were eating, and it caused them to lose their minds and go bird shit crazy and try to attack people. Scary. This can happen. Don't feed infected crabs to birds. Hitchcock deliberately omitted any rational explanation for the behavior of birds. He knew that this created much greater concern in the spectators. And his purpose was only one, to instill fear, chaos, and defenselessness in a universal way. That is why, this is crazy, that's why there's no the end that comes up at the end of the film. It is very open-ended. The shot of all the birds at the house and on the wires and the cables and everything, it is an open ending. And I think at this point, you got to remember too, I mean, this came out in 1963. Hitchcock had been making movies since the 30s. Hitchcock was already a very old guy. The movie he made after this, Marnie, also starring Tippi Hedren, is considered to be his last great movie. And then, he made a few movies in the 70s, but then he died. And this is kind of considered to be one of his last ones. And I think it feels in a weird way that, maybe when this movie went into production, Hitchcock was kind of like taking a break and just going, I'm not going to make a big movie with a big plot. I just want to make you shit your pants, and here you go. It's kind of like that. It's not laziness. I think though it's just there's a very simplistic way that he manages the style and the feeling of this film, and there's a lot of subliminal things that I did not know about until reading about, which is crazy. So, while it's never revealed why the birds started attacking people, the film's trailer provides a clue. It features, and this is what you heard in the beginning, Hitchcock providing insight into a forthcoming lecture of his about birds and their relationship with humanity. He then goes on to provide numerous examples of humanity's ill treatment of birds, including everything from violent cave drawings to the abuse of chickens on farms to duck hunting. So, wink wink, the implication here is that the birds are attacking in this movie because of humanity's indifference and cruelty towards nature. I can see that. I can see that very well. People, stop being mean to nature and stop being mean to animals. Yes. I also loved, this is a quote that film historian Andrew Sarris said. He said, the theme of The Birds, after all, the movie The Birds, after all, is complacency. As the director has stated on innumerable occasions, when we first meet each of the major characters, their infinite capacity of When we first meet each of the major characters, their infinite capacity of self-absorption is emphasized. With such complex, unsympathetic characters to contend with, the audience begins to identify with the point of view of the birds, actually the inhuman point of view. I don't think everyone is unlikable in this film. I know the mom I'm not a fan of in this movie, but I do feel, though, that, this is kind of a weird, twisted look at humanity. And it does kind of show you how there's almost like a weird philosophical meaning to this film, that everybody on Earth sucks and this is why nature is going to kill them. Yeah, this is also crazy. So the scene where Melanie gets attacked by the gull, I can't say that word, when she's on the boat. She gets attacked, she holds the cotton ball against the wound on her head, and if you look closely, the way her hand and forearm are positioned makes the appearance of a bird, and the ring on her pinky represents the eye of the bird. Now, are we matrixing? What is this? Is that really real? Tippi Hedren herself confirmed this and said that Hitchcock wanted to put subtle meanings throughout this movie about the upcoming bird attack. Genius! Insane. Now, this also adds, though, to why Hitch was a dick to Tippi Hedren. So the famous scene, the climax where Melanie's attacked by the birds, it took 7 days to shoot. The physical and emotional tolls of filming this scene were so strong on Tippi Hedren that production was shut down for a week afterwards, and Hedren ended up in the hospital. The birds were attached to her clothes by long nylon threads so they could not get away. Those are real birds in that scene that they would throw at her. Oy vey. Acting laws, come on. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that's also why people love The Birds so much. Not that Tippi Hedren got attacked, but because it's a movie you watch and you don't know how the hell they did so much of this, It's crazy. Funny fact, there was originally going to be an attack scene that took place inside of a pet store, but it had to be scrapped when production was unable to obtain the amount of macaws Hitchcock demanded. Can you imagine macaws attacking people? Because they talk, so they would be like, I'm gonna kill you, asshole! They would be like yelling. Oh my god, that would be so cool. Okay, I want somebody to spoof the birds with macaws and other birds. Like, is an ostrich a bird? Imagine an ostrich killing you. Oh god. I don't know if this is true. In May 2001, many years after this came out, the son of Daphne du Maurier, who wrote the short story The Birds, reported that he and his wife were being terrorized by seagulls nesting outside their cottage in Cornwall, England. Okay, I don't know if they're being terrorized, but I do know birds, if you piss them off, then, they may attack you, especially seagulls. We've all been to the beach. We've all tried to take a bite of a hoagie, and then a seagull will come down and snatch it from your hands. It happened to me. It's horrifying. During the birthday party attack, in order to ensure that the gulls could pop the balloons, pins were placed inside the birds' mouths and their beaks were taped closed. I don't like this. One of the gulls, with its mouth still taped, flew away, and the trainers spent hours looking for it because it would have died if it couldn't open its mouth. Their efforts paid off, and they found the bird. Yeah, I don't like, how I feel about animal cruelty. I don't like that at all. I really don't like that. But the whole switching here, that's what I'm trying to say. Another fact, adding to the campy element of this, at the London premiere of this film, they added 2 flamingos, 50 red cardinals and starlings, and 6 penguins to when people showed up. They were there. Even more, when audiences left the premiere, they were greeted by the sound of screeching and flapping birds from loudspeakers hidden in the trees to scare them further. Oh, my nose just hit the mic. I love that. I just love that. I just had to say that because that is freaking phenomenal. The best moment. I love so many moments in this movie. There are too many to count. I think any moment, any sequence of the birds attacking is fantastic. I think the scene to this day that I still have trouble watching because it is just so terrifying is when Melanie gets attacked at the end in the bedroom with the birds. I get you can't see me. I'm rubbing my eyes right now. I don't like it. I don't like that scene. I don't like it. I mean, I like it. It's the best moment because it affected me the most because it kind of scared the fuck out of me when I first saw it as a kid. But I think there's just something about that sequence that is so incredibly terrifying the more you think about it. Imagine being locked in a room and birds are pecking at your face and your legs and your hands and your arms and you're trying to get the door open and the birds are pecking at your hand. Oh my God. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. And it has done its purpose and it's still affected me to this day.
Mais est-ce que je suis d'accord avec les critiques de ce film?
Yes, I am in agreement with the critics of this film. Some critics do not love this film, but most of them do. Richard Brody of New Yorker said, "Few films depict so eerily yet so meticulously the metaphysical and historical sense of a world out of joint." I like that. I really do like that because, by the end of this movie, this really is kind of like an end of the world disaster film. When you think about it, it really is. It is like Night of the Living Dead, with them barricading themselves in the room and in the house, I mean. And that final shot really does make you go, wow, what happened to the universe? Is this even real? Are we in The Last of Us right now? Still haven't finished that. Not really into it. I'm sorry. I know everybody loves it. Matt Glaspie of Total Film says, though it lacks the psychological depth of Hitchcock's greatest works, The Birds is characterized by a nightmarish simplicity. Nightmarish simplicity, indeed. Simplicity that is nightmarish. An everyday situation, an everyday setting. Suddenly, there's no escape out of it, Yeah, really good. Alistair Sook from Daily Telegraph UK said the true genius of the film, based on the story by Daphne du Maurier, is the way Hitchcock makes the malevolent birds seem like manifestations of his character's mental unease. Yeah, that's clever. I can see that. I mean, not so much Melanie, but the other women in the town. Maybe that's another hidden meaning in the film. Maybe the birds are representations of the unhappy, meanness in all the women, and that's why they start attacking. Maybe. I can see that a little bit. Dave Kerr of Chicago Reader said, Alfred Hitchcock's most abstract film, he called the movie his most abstract film, and perhaps his subtlest, still yielding new meanings and inflections, I almost just said inflections after a dozen or more viewings. You could get infected if you get bit by a bird. It is a very subtle film. I do agree with that. And meanings, subliminal messaging, everywhere in this film.
Is it really one of the best movies of all time?
I 100% think it is. I really, really do. I think it has this weirdness to it that I forget it has every time I watch it, This isn't just your typical campy film about, an animal that attacks people. It's not like Piranha or Jaws or anything. It really... It's very different. It is very, very unnerving and very abstract and very, very oddly, apocalyptic. I mean, obviously, literally, but also figuratively, it does. It just feels like the end of the world when you watch this movie. And every time it ends, I just go, Jesus Christ, I'm so glad I'm not in that town. And also, I'm never buying a bird in my life. But if you have a pet bird and you want to get a pet bird, I of course get what you want. I would like a macaw. Actually, no, I wouldn't, because I'm a light sleeper and I have this fear of being up late at night, and that if they kept me up at night, that would not end well. So, yes, The Birds, a classic. If you have not seen it yet, please go see it. It is a classic. It is creepy and it is weird and it is just an iconic film for Hitchcock, for Tippi Hedren, for Universal Studios, for everything. I highly recommend it. So I will see you next time on this podcast. And in the meantime, I encourage you to get your ass off the couch and go to the goddamn movies. I don't care if you have errands to run. What, you have to go to Home Depot? You have to go to Trader Joe's? Here's a hint. Home Depot is usually situated right next to the movie theater. So you can go in after the movie and gab about the movie that you just saw. And if you see a movie by yourself, it's okay. I go to the movies by myself all the time. I'm fine. Look at me. My voice sounds fine. Okay? Yes, in all seriousness though, please go to the movies. Do it. Go do it. Come on. Just do it. Do it. Do it. All right. Bye-bye. Oh, you made it. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of I'm Reviewing Here. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays. You can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at I'm Reviewing Here. You can also subscribe on YouTube. New episodes drop there the same day they drop on the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. Please leave a review if you'd like. Be mean, be nice, hit on me. I don't really care. Candor really, really is important to me, and, it helps the podcast too. So I really hope you enjoyed it. This podcast is brought to you especially by Nervous Chuckles. That is my fake production company, because I make people nervously chuckle all the time, because they never know if I'm telling a joke or not. So they're always like, do I laugh? Do I not laugh? Is he serious? Is he insane? Did he get out of the loony? What's going on? So if I made you nervously chuckle, then that means that I did my job, and thank you. There is no funding for this podcast, but if you want to give me money, then, hit me up. DM me. Bye-bye.